Science and technological advancements and innovations are driving economies, closing gaps and connecting the world much faster than ever before. And that is our focus inside today's Jamaica Magazine as we observe International Day of Women and Girls in Science. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your navigator for the day. Welcome.
My name is Bruce Croxon. I'm the founder of a fund called Round 13 Capital that invests in Canadian technology companies. My ties to Jamaica go way back because my mother is actually from the island. She comes from the parish of St. Mary, and so some of my very earliest memories are of visiting the island. I think Jamaica is an incredibly special place to visit. It starts with the terrain. I mean, it's physically a beautiful island. I mean, you go from high mountains to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and you can get some amazing views, you get some amazing cultures, and you get some amazing greenery the further you get from the sea. What people don't know about Jamaica is that there is an incredible number of side trips and explorations that you can do. There's some incredible adventure to be had, whether that's hiking in the Blue Mountains or surfing on the North Coast. A lot of people don't associate Jamaica with surf. There's some good surf there. Jamaica is much more than tourist destinations. There's a whole island to be explored and probably more smiles per capita than any other country I've visited, so I've always felt very welcome there.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez and this is your JIS News for Friday, February 11. Government has proposed to spend $912 billion during the 2022-2023 financial year, which begins on April 1. The budget, which represents a 2.1% increase over the previous year, was tabled in Parliament yesterday by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. It comprises $539.5 billion for non-debt or recurring expenses, $65.1 billion in capital spending, and $307.5 billion for debt servicing. Minister Clark says while capital expenditure was significantly curtailed in 2020 due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, this budget is geared at moving the country from crisis to sustainable growth.
With the economic recovery underway, we're seeking to boost capital investment in fiscal year 22-23 by 20%, which will still, however, lead to a total that's lower than pre-pandemic levels. And we do this in order to ensure that the growth momentum is maintained. And this represents a 0.2 percentage point increase as a percentage of GDP.
The estimates of expenditure will now go before the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament and will be presented in greater detail when the Finance Minister opens the budget debate on March 8. Ministries with increases include Finance, which has the largest top-up of $4.8 billion. The Agriculture and Fisheries budget has increased by $2.9 billion, Health and Wellness by $2.68 billion, and Economic Growth and Job Creation by $1.4 billion. The budget for education was increased by $543 million, while an additional $426 million is earmarked for science, energy, and technology. There was, however, a $1 billion decline for the Ministry of National Security. Government has delivered on a promise to introduce stronger legislation to crack down on the illicit trade, manufacture, stockpiling, possession, and use of illegal guns. A bill to repeal and replace the current Firearms Act was tabled in Parliament by National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang yesterday. The Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act 2022 is now going to a joint select committee of Parliament, where members will review the proposed harsher penalties and regulations for illegal firearms.
The framework is now more robust and comprises, this bill introduces a much more robust framework and comprises of two regimes. One to treat with prohibited weapons and the other dealing with firearms duly registered by the authorities. The illegal guns that have not been subject to the local regulatory regime are now considered prohibited firearms and will be treated with stronger penalties and with a different regime.
The bill also empowers the National Security Minister to declare a firearms amnesty by order, subject to affirmative resolution.
The government is committed to a timely and bipartisan review of this bill towards its approval and the implementation.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced changes to the daily curfew and attendance capacity for worship services, while other COVID-19 protocols remain unchanged. From February 11 to 25, the national curfew will be from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. the following morning. The Prime Minister says this and other changes are in response to data showing rapid improvement in our COVID-19 indicators since the recorded peak at the start of the year.
Our management of the pandemic has always been evidence-based, data-driven, proportionate, and situationally appropriate. The changes to the measures I have announced today represent a continuation of the gradual and controlled process of getting our economy back to full productive capacity. We will continue this process to give all Jamaicans the opportunity to earn their livelihoods while protecting their health.
Mr. Holness was making a statement to the House of Representatives yesterday. He says the current maximum of 100 persons being allowed to physically attend worship services is being replaced with a capacity limit that is determined based on the size of the place of worship divided by 36 square feet. All other measures will remain unchanged. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the two-party dialogue between the government and opposition, the Vale Royal Talks, will resume before the end of this month. The Vale Royal Talks are a mechanism for members of the two major political parties to have bipartisan discussions on critical issues of national importance. Prime Minister Holness says government remains committed to a bipartisan approach for finding solutions to Jamaica's common social problems. He says the Vale Royal property on Montrose Road in St. Andrew is not able to accommodate the discussions in its current condition, but reasons that various institutions, including the universities and the church, could facilitate these important meetings.
And so the Vale Royal Talk in name will be held right across venues across Jamaica. And we will then therefore begin the process, opposition and government, in reviewing our social and political institutions that are in need of a rethink.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the Prime Minister's Lunch for Parliamentarians held yesterday on the lawns of Jamaica House. It followed the ceremonial opening of Parliament earlier in the day. And finally, government will be providing the required funding to clean up the recent flood-damaged areas in St. Mary, Portland and St. Anne. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond Mackenzie made the announcement during a tour of the affected parishes on Wednesday. He was on the tour with Agriculture Minister Pernell Charles Jr. and Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda. Minister Mackenzie says the administration is aware of the disruption that the rains have caused in these parishes, and their response will continue to reflect a joined-up government approach. That has started with the Minister of Labour and Social Security providing relief supplies to affected persons.
I have spoken to the mayor and I've given the mayor the assurance that whatever funding is required for the cleanup exercise, that is to be undertaken. And the mayor have already started, and with what we are going to be providing for him will give us the opportunity to bring back some semblance to the town.
The tour party made stops in the Fellowship Division in Portland, Port Maria in St. Mary Central, and Jacks River in St. Mary Western, as well as the Bamboo and Sturgestown divisions in St. Anne Northwestern. The local government and rural development minister says his team will be back in St. Mary next week for an additional 3-day tour to further devise targeted interventions to help the affected sectors in the parish. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Motorists, when driving on the road, here are some simple reminders. Look out for and extend courtesy to all road users. Give plenty of room to pedestrians, especially in wet weather. Drive slowly. No bother wet them up. Slow down when approaching a pedestrian crossing or school, and always be prepared to stop. Remember, a school zone is a 30-kilometer zone. Cut your speed. Drivers of large and slow-moving vehicles should always keep in the far left hand of a dual carriageway. Keep it simple. Drive left and pass right. These are just simple reminders of your road duties. Drive safely.
One thing we unfortunately have to think of when traveling is the possibility of motor vehicle crashes. If you're ever caught in this situation, Here's a step-by-step guide on how to report a motor vehicle crash.
You know how they say accidents do happen, unexpectedly and often unintentionally. Though road safety experts no longer define these unfortunate incidents involving motor vehicles as accidents, they're certainly never intended. Unfavorable weather conditions, objects on the road, your miscalculation while driving, or another driver can cause crashes, even for the best defensive drivers. That's exactly why it's important to know how to respond in these situations. So, what do you do at that exact moment? What should be your next steps? And when and how should you file a police report?
For the number of reports that come to this station, perhaps it's on a basis of about 10 to 15 per day. That's the number of accidents per day. So after a road traffic accident, person should first try to clear the roadway if they are obstructing the traffic for other motorists. Secondly, drivers are expected to exchange vehicle documents, and the documents should include their registration certificate, certificate of fitness, insurance certificate, and your driver's license information. Those are the essential 4 pieces of information that should be provided to both parties after an accident. Contact information is optional, but you have cases where a person tries to settle outside insurance, and that's now a civil matter. It's an agreement between both parties. So if they want to exchange contact information, that's also optional, depending on the intention that they have in terms of fixing the vehicle outside insurance or what.
Your next step? Making a police report about the collision. This is always a good idea. That way you have proof of exactly what happened and the scope of any injuries.
In terms of our approach as police officers for a motor vehicle accident, first the critical thing is to check for injuries, make sure that persons are okay. If there's a need for persons to be assisted to the hospital for any sort of treatment, we should make sure we render assistance to persons in need of that care first. Secondly, we check for the damage for the vehicles, make sure there is no obstruction along the roadway, and then we can treat with the documents or the exchange of particulars between both parties. After making a report of a motor vehicle accident, the next step that persons are advised to do is to make a report to their insurance company, and that's for another motorist. As it relates to a pedestrian or persons who are injured, they are also advised to get the assistance of an attorney to file a personal injury claim against the party that is liable in the accident. For follow-up visits, what we do, we have cases where persons are seriously injured, some of which are not able to make it to the station to give a report in the first instance. So what we try to do, whether the persons are hospitalized, we ensure that visits are made and that the person's conditions are updated as we go along. As we through the investigation, we ensure that the person's conditions are updated along the procedure.
But are you always required to report traffic collisions?
Not in all cases a report must be filed for accidents. We have situations where it could be a very minor mishap. For example, someone could be reversing from their garage, they could bump their gate. So in those cases, it's not necessary for them to make a report. But for other situations involving another motorist, or a case where a pedestrian or a property is damaged, a report is expected to be made because persons at times are expected to make claims, whether from their insurance company or their attorneys, based on the damage received or the injuries they've sustained.
Reports from the Road Safety Unit shows that up to April 26, 139 lives have been cut short because of road crashes this year, with over 100 of those being males. And for the corresponding period last year, 136 lives were lost in road crashes. On a more global level, studies from the World Health Organization (WHO) show that approximately 1.35 million people die each year as a result of road traffic crashes, and 3% of most countries' gross domestic product is spent on road traffic crashes.
The most common cause of motor vehicle accidents, from my understanding, it's mostly impatience on the part of some of the drivers and lack of knowledge as to how the roadways should be used. And I also believe the implementation of traffic signs at various areas would also aid the process, because most drivers are not aware of what to do at various parts of the roadway.
In the face of such figures, even the most careful driver can suddenly encounter a bit of bad fortune on the road. You know that saying, decisions can be like car accidents, sudden and full of consequences. So how about making the right decision to be responsible road users today?
I really hope that those who are listening to my voice will take an introspection of themselves and check out how they have been operating the motorcycle. Are you operating with a helmet, a elbow pad, a knee pad, a jacket, a shoulder pad? Are you wearing shoes instead of slippers? Have you removed the mirrors from the motorcycles? Obedience better than sacrifice. Do the right thing. Are you going to ensure that you buckle up in the motor vehicle and the persons in the motor vehicle behind your back, your passengers, are they buckle up? Are you going to ensure that? Are you going to give yourself adequate time to reach your destination so that you don't have to be in any ears, so that you don't help to clog up the health sector? Nobody should be going to the hospitals because of traffic crashes. Nobody. They are preventable, they are avoidable. We can make better choice than that.
I have absolutely no idea what this is or what it's even used for. But today on Autospot, I'm going to be learning all about tires, and who knows, I might even end up changing one myself.
A tire is a ring-shaped component that surrounds the rim, which helps to cushion the road feel and offer traction and stability of the vehicle. You have all-purpose tires, which can use in all terrain. You have wet tires. For wet tires, it's for like wet road condition. You can't use a dry tire in the wet season. You get slippage. For the tire to be completely functional, you need the rim, you need air to be inflated in the tire to get it to the correct air pressure so that it's suitable for road condition. A cold tire is when the temperature inside the tire is reduced to like normal road temperature. At that time is the correct time to check the air pressure within the tire to give you an accurate reading. For the hot tires now is when you're driving on the road for a long duration of time and the heat inside the tire builds up and increases the pressure inside the tire. Tire inflation is the pressure inside the tire, which can be in kilopascal, bars, or PSI. There's an instrument called the tire pressure gauge, which I have here with me. You use to take the tire pressure. I can demonstrate for you. First, we'll have to remove the dust cap from off the tire. Place the tire pressure gauge on the tire valve, and it automatically pushes out the tire pressure gauge and give you the correct reading.
The driver still needs to play a big role in the safety of the vehicle on the road. Now, we see a lot of vehicles coming into our premises at our body shop, and we see a lot of accidents that could have been easily prevented. People texting, people not paying due care and attention when they're on the road. Now, Jamaica had over 370 odd deaths last year on the road, There's a big target to get it under 300 this year, and that can easily be achievable if people just pay a bit more care and attention when they're driving on the road.
The tyre normally has a manufacture date on the side. From that date in which the tyre was produced, you can know when the tyre needs to be changed. Within 4 to 6 years of the manufacture date, the tyre is due for replacement.
But what if I'm on the road and I have a flat tyre, what do I do?
Okay, the first step is to park the vehicle in a secure location, flat surface. Pull up the emergency handbrake, ensure that the vehicle don't run back or anything. Then you gather your tools, including a jack, lug tool for the job. Alright. Here you have the lug. You're gonna place the lug tool on that, ensure that the correct lug tool is fit perfectly, and you push it down in the anti-clockwise position.
Okay.
And you do that for all 5 lugs.
Okay, and it's usually 5 lugs?
No, some vehicles carry 4, some carry 5, some carry 6. But for this application, it's 5.
Okay. So what else do you do after that?
After you remove the lugs, you remove the complete wheel and you have it all for yourself. Then you go for your spare and place it back on here and screw on back. You tighten back your lugs.
Alright, so this is what you use to tighten it back?
Yeah, this is the lug tool.
So you're going in the other direction?
Yeah, clockwise. Turning. And you always tighten diagonal. Right, you tighten in the clockwise direction.
So which one? Which one
Clockwise.
you tighten first?
It can be anyone, but you have to tighten it diagonal. This, then this, and this. Yeah. Cross and cross. So the wheel go on even. And then let down the vehicle, and then you finally torque the lugs to make sure that they are correctly tight.
Where do we usually find the spare tires?
Alright, depending on the vehicle type, sometimes the spare is under the vehicle and the back of the trunk or inside the trunk.
So it's not as simple as it seems, but it's clearly doable. It's all in a day's work, well, at least for a newbie like me. But really it should take about 10 to 15 minutes to change. I can promise you there's so much value in learning to get the job done. I certainly feel accomplished.
If you caught us at the very beginning, you would have heard that today is being observed as the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Under the theme, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion, Water Unites Us. This year's observance aims to recognize the role of women and girls in science not only as beneficiaries, but also as agents of change. At the same time, the day is being used to promote the speeding up of progress towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation. The United Nations designed the day because of the major gender gap that is endured throughout the years at all levels of science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM disciplines. And while women have made significant progress towards increasing their participation in higher education, they are still underrepresented in these disciplines. To all our women in science, working, creating and innovating to make lives and homes better, happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science from your JIS family. Continue to work to make the world a much better place and our country the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
The information sharing from your Jamaica Magazine team stops right here, but that's only for today. More features, news and stories of change are being prepared to hit your screen tomorrow. So until then, you can re-watch today's show as well as other shows and features on our YouTube channel. Also visit the JIS Facebook, Instagram and Twitter pages for more information. From all of us here at the JIS, I am Adrian Atkinson. See you soon.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.